Yeah, we're like an hour and 15, I think.
Squirrel.
Yeah.
Okay, so then you have the grass is greener than syndrome guy and thinks the elk aren't here, or we blew them out. We have to go. We got to go to this other ridge. I'm going to like Pearl Harbor it. I'm just going to hit the ground and disappear.
Never seen you wearing a flat brim before.
And I'm going to be like, that's because it's gay. No, I'm not going to say that. The through hiker. Basically, that is the guy hikes all day and never stops. Doesn't matter which way the wind's blowing. Doesn't matter rain, shine. Going straight into a bedding area. His philosophy is all go, no quit. If he's giving 110%, that's the best chance he has of getting an animal.
You know, I know a guy like that. His name's Cousin Ben Morris.
Yeah.
Dude, we got about 200 yards with 200 pounds, and we were like, oh, we must be retarded. This is never going to happen.
See, everyone?
You been in that brim now?
Yeah.
Yeah, Aaron, let's face it. You're more like redneck brim, where it's curved so far that you can't, like, see your
I don't want to
eyes.
see anything coming from the left and right. I have ninja-type abilities. So I'm like, oh, you're going to die.
We are Full Draw Film Tour, and we are listening to
The Gritty Bowman!
Yeah!
Hello, all right. You're listening to The Gritty Bowman, home of gritty bow hunting films, interviews, tall tales, and a wee bit of manly boasting.
I'm South Cox, and you're listening to The Gritty Bowman.
Hey, this is Corey Jacobson, and you're listening to The Gritty Bowman.
We born and raised outdoors, and you've been listening to The Gritty Bowman.
There you go.
I'm Casey.
And I'm Jordan.
And you're watching
The Gritty Bowman.
All right, folks, welcome back to the Gritty Bowman podcast. Aaron and I are we're going to do
a daily double.
That's right. We're hitting two on the same day. Today, on this podcast, though, we are going to cover some of the mistakes that we've made this season, because it seems like there were quite a few. And we learned some lessons, and so we're just going to go over some of the most painful ones, and hopefully all of you out there can avoid these same mistakes. So
And no one take these mistakes personal, because keep in mind, as I'm making fun of them, it's something either he or I did or have already done. Some of these, a couple of the ones I have listed, I haven't done this year, but they were pretty catastrophic. Had done them, so they're still kind of a beacon in my mind of not doing it again.
Yes. So Aaron, you go first.
Okay, so we'll bounce back and forth.
Yeah.
Some of these we didn't rehearse this, so we may double up.
Normally we plan really in depth before each podcast, so we're just gonna wing this one.
Allie just texted me that her truck ate my Subaru. I bought a new car. Just get that out of the way right now. Has nothing to do with this podcast, but I have a big jacked up 4Runner. Gets like 10 miles a gallon. It's got a supercharger. It makes me feel really tough. But I bought a Subaru, a couple weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. I have not heard the end of it. It is a great car. It gets like 30 some miles to the gallon. I like it. It's really fast.
I think on an earlier podcast you were making fun of Subarus. So this is
remember I said I was going to buy one and put a coexist sticker in it.
That's
Put
right.
it at the trailheads. Well, we went to get my wife one because she had my Tundra. So we sold my Tundra to Yeti Dave, a buddy of ours. And then she wanted the newest, latest, greatest. It was like $30,000. I don't know what it was. So we leased her a car. But they had explained to us there's a certain amount you want to put down for the lease to work out correctly. Anyway, well, then I started driving the car, and I'm like, man, I like this car. So now I'm a bit of an anomaly. I haven't had credit in, I pay cash for everything. Mm-hmm. So I didn't know what my credit score was. I figured it was horrible. And they came back, and they said, you're a bit of an anomaly here. And I was like, what do you mean? They said, you don't really have a blip on the credit score for 10 years of your life. And then I'm like, I pay cash for everything. And they're like, you don't have a credit card? And I'm like, nope, nothing. I said, I don't have one. And they said, well, explain to me, because I was just going to pay the majority of the car off. And they said, the guy was cool. He said, here's what I would do. He's like, you can double and triple up on payments. You don't want to pay it off too fast because then the bank doesn't get their portion of it, doesn't look on your. So they set me up to be paid off in the exact amount of time to get the most out of it. I put a certain amount down. Like they told me I was going to put more down. They're like, don't do that. Put this amount down and then triple your payments, because in Colorado, when you double and triple payments, the interest, you don't pay that interest rate, right? So all after your first payment, the second and third all go to the principal. I'm not a banker. Right. It all makes sense to me. I'm like, all right, let's do it. So I bought a car.
So you bought a car.
And it's a Subaru.
It's kind of fun. Subaru, I won't question your manliness. I mean, they're all-wheel drive, right? I mean,
I know. Well, we'll see how it goes. But anyway, so I can't say that's a mistake I've made. We'll talk about the Subaru next year. But the first thing I would say on my list is leaving your pack behind on a stock. And I think you guys, Anthony or you, left one, or both of you chuckleheads. It only takes once to do that.
It was both. We set the packs down and ended up paying a very, very high price for that. We dropped, like, I don't remember. We went 3.5 miles or 3 miles, so it was 6 or 7 miles round trip, because we get Anthony's elk down, okay, and everything we need to butcher this thing and the kill kit, everything's in the packs. Well, they're 3.5 miles behind us with 2,500 feet of elevation. Well, we just dropped 2,500 feet in elevation over 3 miles. Now we've got to go back and get the packs and then come back down. That was a 7-mile, 5,000 foot elevation cost. I want to cry. I mean, it was just, and it was pointless as well. Like, granted, this goes back to one of the other mistakes we made. Well, Anthony made is, I'm going to blame Anthony for this. Anthony, hope you're listening. I'd like you to learn from this. Radios. And, it's legal to use to have a radio, contact each other. We get separated. Anthony is on this bull, and granted, if he had his pack on, he wouldn't have been able to run it down. Like, he wouldn't have been able to keep up with it as it goes down one canyon, up another. It's injured. It's wounded. So I get he'd have to drop his pack, right, at some point. But with a radio, he could have said, hey, make sure you bring your pack and knife and all your stuff, and I'm down in the bottom of this canyon. Here's my GPS coordinates, right? Piece of cake. And then I could have done that. But instead, he didn't bring a radio that day. So we had no way of communicating once we got separated. So when we get together, it was an expensive mistake.
In a same type of thing, I won't go into all the idiot stories I've done, but I will say that I do not drop that pack until it becomes completely a complete total hindrance and will cost me the animal, is when I will drop the pack. And even then, I'll probably push it. Now, that guide lid, not to pimp out Kafaro, but the lid we have was made to immediately detach and put on your back with mission essential gear, meaning a GPS, water, game, kill kit, very simple stuff. Now, in my chest rig, in that Alaskan guide creation, I carry a fire starter, Havilland knife, stuff like that. But the bottom line is, you still got to go back and get the flipping thing, right? And so I don't like to do that. So I usually, if I can get 200 yards, 100 yards, I might drop it then. The other thing that I do is I have a ribbon, a very large ribbon, that if I possibly can, if I drop it by a tree, I tie a ribbon off. Yeah, obviously, if you're within 100 yards of a mule deer, you're probably not going to lose the pack. But if it's foggy, a ribbon might help some. But at the very least, if you have time, mark it on your GPS. I have that wristwatch one. Wear that out or whatever. but it can become life-threatening in some cases. At the very least, a royal pain in the butt, and it's certainly going to help make you expend a lot more energy if you.
Yeah.
In your case, that's what happened to me. I don't know what I was thinking. I didn't even shoot the dang animal. My buddy did, and he had his pack, and I got up to his pack, and I set my pack beside his, and just because I didn't know exactly what was going on, and he let me know, and he took off after it, and I'm like, oh, it must be down. Didn't even think to grab the pack. I walked up to him. 3 hours later, the bull's down. We don't even know where our packs are. I'm not sure where north, south, east, or west was. I mean, it was a crisis event trying to find them. So yeah, never leave your pack.
That's the other thing is, but with never leaving your pack behind, it's inevitable. It's going to happen though. You're going to drop it for some reason or another sometimes in the heat of the moment. So if you're going to do that, everything I need is in that Alaska Guide Creations bino harness to survive overnight. I got my fire starter. I have a little emergency blanket. I have, I've got a compass. I've got some essentials in there, so that if I am alone, and I also have my knife and some game bags and stuff stuffed in there as well, and that way. 100%. I got some little water iodine drops, and some other things to.
Let's talk about that real quick. Just we're gonna try in 30 to 45 minutes on this podcast. I don't know, but in mine on my right side, I have a lens pin. It's a little Swarovski one, flint and steel, and trioxane tablet. That's on my right side. On my left side, I have a Petzl E-Light headlamp, that little guy. I have a lawn knife, 6 or 7 blades, whatever the case may be, and then I have 6 MSR aqua tabs. It's tiny and they're just folded up.
Yep.
In the very back of it, I have rubber gloves, not that big of a deal, orange ribbon, about 20 feet of 1.8 millimeter cord, and then sometimes I'll put my tags are always in there, things like that. Yep. I generally, if I'm leaving, I might throw a bar in there because you can't even tell it's on. In the front of it, I have wind indicator, on the top of it, I have wind indicator. On the front, I have usually a diaphragm collar or whatever, but I keep my GPS wristwatch in the front of that.
Yeah.
This is the smaller version. With that, I can make something. I'll be okay, right?
Yeah. And all of that's in your bino harness?
Yeah.
I have the smaller hook and loop bino harness, which I really like. Yeah. But just after using it for a season, I love that thing to the point where I don't want to, I want a bigger one. I want a basement now on it. It's like they have that little basement compartment, or they have some other ones that have a little bit bigger size. I'm still looking into it, but I wanted to fit a few more things. Instead, I have go-to things that sit in my pant pocket on the left side and on the right side, and like toiletry and some other stuff. So if I'm ever not with my pack, I'm good for a couple of days. I'll be okay. I got my GPS, some map, compass, all that stuff's just in there prepared.
Yep. Yeah. And the key is, one, don't necessarily listen to Brian and I on what's in your harness, although I'd say you can match it identically and you'll be fine. But make sure something is in there. There's no reason to carry that thing with all these pockets if you don't put stuff in there.
And to that said, like you were saying, not every area is going to require the same survival equipment. If you're for example, where we were at, I did bring some game bags with us because there's so many flies in the heat we were dealing with that just carving it off and cooling the meat, that's fine, but you really need to get it covered or the flies will just go to town on it.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know, some things like that are unique to that situation. I think if you're hunting some spots in Arizona and the nights get down to 60 degrees, you may not need to worry about fire as much as you need to worry about water,
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, exactly. So all right, we got that one. The next one, which is kind of along the lines of leaving your pack. This did not happen to us this year.
Wait, before
Yeah.
you do that, you were telling me about hunting with John, and he was like, "Okay, should we take our packs off? Should we take our packs off?" And you're like,
Oh, well, John is a sniper, right? One of the best, if not the best. This is John Pinch, long range shooters I've ever seen, and I have seen a lot of them. Very methodical. He's bow hunted a lot, but he's not a lot. He's bow hunted a decent amount, but he hasn't backpack bow hunted a lot. And he had asked a few different times, when we were on the stock, should we take our packs off? And I was like, with probably a couple F words, no, we will never. And I don't think he'd ever probably got stuck without his yet, and I had. So I get not anal, but I'm like, no, we are not leaving. I never, ever leave my pack, ever, ever.
and I was gonna say that it gets really tempting, and I've been there so many times where it's like, okay, I'm within 300 yards, I'm gonna drop the pack. 200 yards, I'm gonna drop the pack, and now I'm gonna start hunting these up. Well, the reality is, I can hunt just fine with that pack on my back. It's not it's not risking my ability to kill that animal. So I keep it on a lot longer than I used to, because you never know when you're going to get up and run or go to the next spot, and you don't want to have to climb all the way back to get your stuff or lose it, whatever.
Well, one of the things I do is I lower my load lifter angle for day hunting. So, best case scenario, camp set up and we're just day hunting. I lower the load lifter angle. I compress everything. So really, other than having a belt and shoulder straps on, it's not a hindrance to me. And I know a lot of guys that'll take a backpack in 2 packs, which I think is crazy.
Yeah, right.
I just flatten the big pack. I mean, that one is the system I had for the goat hunt was like 8,000 cubic inches and 5.5 pounds. So it wasn't like I was crippled with weight, and it flattened out completely.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a big deal, but I think with John, he was just so worried that having that pack on would be a hindrance, which is understandable. But where we were, you can lose some altitude. Well, you saw where we packed the goat out pretty quick. So, but on this kind of the same lines as far as dropping the pack and having a multi-day hunt or day hunt, if you ever drop you don't have camp set up and you're going to go on a stock and you're hiking in with multiple you've got 7 days of gear, I strongly suggest when you drop your main kit, your sleep system, all the things you don't need to go on the stock, because a lot of times if we're going in and we're going to go on a stock on the way in, we'll drop, we just keep our day hunting stuff in, and everything goes on the ground for the camp.
Yep.
You waterproof that. You put your rain fly over it. You put it in a garbage bag or whatever needs to be done. On the bear hunt in Washington 2 years ago, it was the guy I was with. He was like sunny and 70, and I had a big rain cover. He's like, no, it'll be fine, and he left all his stuff. Dude, it pissed rain like crazy. But luckily, when we took off, I stuffed his stuff all under mine. Not that I'm the savior, but I mean,
Right.
I had the way ahead to do it because I have left mine out before.
Yep.
And even if it's in waterproof bags, for the majority, all of it probably is not. But then you got a wet waterproof bag. It only takes a second. Just throw it in. I almost always have a garbage bag or something with me. Throw it in there. So I would say, and then the next one, if you drop your main camp, I personally try and hang an orange ribbon if it's a long distance, but you make dang sure you mark that bad boy on a GPS, because everything always looks the same. Because sometimes when I say a stock, we may be dropping 1,800 vertical feet. I mean, we may be going who knows how far. So I always make sure you mark anything important.
Dude, I mark it all. If my boots come off, if my trekking poles go on the ground, if my camp goes down, it goes on the GPS. It just, that's ingrained in my brain. Like it's, that rarely happens to me that I haven't marked it. It's just not worth the risk.
So the next one, which I'm not going to mention any names, but bring a backup release. Sometimes if you haven't had your coffee in the morning, if you have a backup release in your pack, your possibles pouch, wherever the case may be all the time, if you've hiked in 1.5 miles or dropped 1,000 feet and you left it in your tent because you didn't drink coffee quick enough, you got one in your pack and ready to go. Yeah. I know many stories, including myself. I tried to shoot at like a very large mule deer with fingers because I didn't bring my release, and I didn't hit anything. I probably almost shot myself more than the deer. So now I always have a backup release in my pack.
Brilliant. Yeah, I do too. Always have it because one time I just lost it, and it took me a day and a half to get out, go into town, buy it, and then another day, and I lost like 3 days of hunting on a 7-week hunting trip, a 7-day hunting trip. So now I just carry a spare. I just have two. I just assume I'll lose one at some point, and I'll have the other one, and I have, and then have that spare. It's night and day.
I've gone to the length. I leave one in the truck, one in my pack, and my primary.
Yeah. I've got a few too. Back to the keeping your gear dry. Yeah. I run a Z-Packs tarp, Cuban fiber tarp. That thing weighs 6 ounces. It's 12 by 8 feet. It's so light. It's almost, there's just no justification for not bringing it with me. Yeah. And it's compact, and I throw it into, I just kind of keep it with me 24/7. And I have wrapped that thing around my head and just covered myself in pouring rain. It's like a giant poncho. I throw all my gear under it. I pretty much take that thing everywhere I go now. And I've considered getting a little bit smaller one because 12 by 8 is like excessive. Yeah. All three of us can fit under it when we stake it out, you know. But I use that thing all the time. Even when it was sunny and hot, we'd throw it under it for shade just to get out. Yeah. The wind was blowing under it. It's nice. So having a tarp, you know, lightweight, you know, just square piece of material, rectangle, I think it's so versatile. It's hard to, you know, not bring it along.
The other thing too is it doesn't hurt for shade for your meat either. If you need to adapt and overcome for very piss poor conditions, it doesn't hurt to have extra shade for your meat. The other thing is too, not that you can use that for survival and make a drain out of from condensation. Not to go into in-depth MacGyver stuff, but you can use that to set up where the condensation and you'd be amazed at how much water you can get, especially in your neck of the woods, making that to where the condensation funnels and then it drips into a water bottle. I can go into that.
Hey, that's something to look into later, because we were up there where there really is almost no water, but there was a lot of condensation in the morning.
Yeah, and you can get enough where you won't die. Not to go off on a tangent, you can go 2 or 3 weeks with no food, 2 days without water, you're going to die.
Yeah. So as far as camp and leaving it behind, we one of the things that was a big mistake we made, which was painful. Anthony was going to hike out to go see his son's football game out of the canyon, right?
Yeah.
So we're getting ready to go down this major canyon to the bottom and up the other side to go after these elk. And I have my sleeping bag and pad and tarp in my day bag, just in case we don't come back to base camp. I just throw it in there. I do this all the time. We have like a spike camp sometimes we set up, and then I have enough I have my sleeping bag and pad and tarp, and it doesn't weigh but like total 4 or 5 pounds. Makes it light and easy for me to get around these mountains that are straight up, straight down. But I can stay out for 2 days. You know, a little bit of food. I can stay out for 2 days. I don't need to bring anything I cook. I can just eat granola bars if I rough it or whatever. Well, we were doing that. Rather than carry our entire camp with us, we are going after these elk at the bottom of this canyon. Well, Anthony is convinced that he's going to hike out and go see his son's football game.
Yeah.
So we have an argument over him not bringing a sleeping bag with him. I'm like, just throw it in your pack. He's like, no, I'm hiking out. I'm hiking out tonight. There's no way I'm not hiking out. I'm like, there is a way. You may not hike out tonight. You may be spending the night here, and I am not sharing my sleeping bag. And he's like, dude, I am hiking out. There's nothing that's going to stop me. And I'm like, dude, it's like a 3-pound sleeping bag. Maybe put it in your bag.
Yeah.
Just bring it with you. So he doesn't, because he's Anthony and stubborn. And we go and we hunt, and sure enough, we get on these elk. It's this long day. We don't. Ben misses. Sorry, Ben. I just threw you under the bus. He misses this bull, and it's late. Now we're going to bed. Guess what? Ben and I have a sleeping bag. Ben and I have a pad. Anthony is miles from camp. No sleeping bag, no pad.
Yeah.
So 3 guys in 2 bags and pads. How does that work, Aaron?
So what did he say? There would have been a lot of "I told you so." I told you so.
There was a lot of that, but we kind of sucked it up and made do, and it was a shoulder to shoulder kind of night. But actually, he crawled inside his Kifaru backpack.
Yeah, we've had to do that. Yeah.
And the reality is, it's just not that warm. You
No.
know, it's not that warm. Not a lot of insulation there, but he's crawled inside the bag. He lasted about half the night before he was too frozen like a popsicle from the waist down.
That's funny.
But we just unzipped the bags basically and laid them out over the top of the pads, and just made some giant blankets there. But it was a miserable night. So, be prepared. Like you may plan to go back to your spike camp, but it doesn't hurt to carry a sleeping bag and pad, dude.
I was just going to say that we do the same thing. We built that little tarp thing we have, but I don't always bring that. If I have a garbage, I guess if you can build a fire, which in your case, I don't know if you guys can. It didn't look like there's a whole lot of stuff to build a fire from where you guys were at. So like, I don't bring a sleeping bag a lot because I'll get in. We have, I have a garbage bag. Mm-hmm. I'll get in the garbage bag and I tie that up tight, and then I slide the rest of my body in my pack. That's way more efficient than just the pack. Right. And then I put a parka on, whatever kind of jacket, whether it's an insulating puffy type jacket. Build a fire, and if there's 3 of us, we pre-build 3 giant piles of wood.
Yeah.
And if somebody's always waking up, and you just throw wood in, and it can be a relatively decent night. So I mean, you're not.
Fire makes a big difference.
Yeah. So if I can build fire, I guess it all depends on the danger level, you know what I mean? And the whole hike out thing. If you're able to hike back to camp and you're just a machine, but sometimes it's just flat out easier, because if you got to turn around in the morning and hike, you get back to camp at midnight and you got to get up at 3 or 4 to make it back to where you were, you're probably better off just staying there.
Yeah, and that's really what it was. We were on top of the elk. There's no sense in hiking back that night because the elk were in the next canyon, so we were right on top of them. So why leave them? Yeah. So you stay there, but it would have been much more pleasant had the man brought his sleeping bag. So that's just I'm just throwing that out there, Anthony.
That's funny. Oh Lord, I'm getting these funny. Lisa just sent her Chevy ate my Subaru, but she's got that small Chevy, so I'm not listening. La, la, la. Okay, so another issue that you can get into trouble with is the key vehicle problem, meaning the keys to start the vehicle at the trailhead, or you can get to a point where you've got a vehicle in point A and then you have a vehicle in point B with the destination being to B. But if one guy says, I'm going to run to B, you stay here and I'll meet you back at A, but I have the keys to the B vehicle, he's hiked to B.
Yeah.
So make sure you have your key situation figured out. There's a couple things that we do. We have our primary key. There's an alternate key that's hidden somewhere around the vehicle, in the vehicle, wherever the case may be.
Yep.
And then I have a primary on me. But make sure that's thought of ahead of time, because that didn't happen to us this year, but it has before. But it has happened. It happened to 2 of our buddies. And then one guy went like 8 miles out to whatever, and no keys. So at that point, it became calling the wives driving up. She drove up. She had the wrong key, so it didn't start. she was able to give him a ride back, but then they had to go back up. So it came.
Dang. That's just, yeah, we stash our keys where all three of us know where they are before we leave. It's hidden on the truck somewhere, or one thing that I used to do is stick them under a rock, right, near the truck. The problem with that is one day I'm sitting there and some guy came up with his hunting dogs, and they come trotting in, because they were hunting grouse or something, and they ran right to the rock and started digging up my keys.
Oh, that's funny.
And so the dogs, someone's hunting dogs definitely will pick right up on that scent, and they'll figure that out. So I try to hang them up a little higher now, or usually like a magnet somewhere on the truck, magnet box, and then we're all good. And then whoever gets back to the truck they've got a set of keys sitting right on the vehicle somewhere.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it. So the next one, is check your battery life for all your electronics, but the things that can get pushed on, headlamps, GPSs, you can flip
batteries.
Yeah, flip the batteries or just take them out, one or the other. Yeah. In my zebra lights, my headlamps, it's a big, I don't know the number, it's a big guy, and I take that one out. I take them out and I just leave them in the pack, because when I need a headlamp, very rarely is it an emergency where like that extra 5 to 10 seconds to put the battery in is a huge deal.
Yeah,
that happened. Multiple guys, including myself. My E-light somehow got turned on, but take the E-light I wouldn't worry about. That little guy I use, but all the other ones I'd take the battery out or flip it. Somebody smarter than us probably knows if it loses battery life when you flip it, but I would do that. Okay, another the whole going Winchester thing is what we call in the military when you run out of ammo or arrows.
Yeah.
That happened more this year to more people, including, and I didn't run out. I bring a lot.
Yeah.
I sometimes, actually, this happened recently on rock slide, and a guy asked, how many arrows do you take on an extended backpack trip? And I said, I take 10 to 12. I take 6 in my quiver and 4 to 6 extra. And a guy posted back, if you need more than 5, you don't know what you're doing. Keep in mind, that guy has never really been on an extended backpack hunt. He's killed lots of stuff. He's a friend of mine. But things happen, right? Arrows break, misses happen. Mm-hmm. You fall. You need to reconfirm your bow is on. You may break a couple arrows trying to reconfirm. All of those things can happen. And with 5 arrows on a 10-day trip, I mean, that could be gone in a good day of elk hunting and hitting branches. In a perfect world, if we were all perfect, the kill ratio would be much above 7 to 14%.
Yeah.
I would strongly suggest on a 5, 7, 10-day backpack hunt to carry at least, if you have 5 in your quiver, to carry at least 3 to 5 extras. And it's grouse season normally. I shoot grouse. I shoot whatever I can eat. I shoot. And so I would say bring more, because
agreed.
9 guys I know ran out of arrows this year.
It's not that heavy. It's not that heavy to bring some extra arrows.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right.
I'll throw one out there. This is elk hunting, because that's really what I was just doing for the past month. 2 things. If you haven't practiced this, if you don't, and this is kind of obvious, it's kind of like for the experienced hunter, it's a no-brainer. But the question is can you draw your bow very slowly? We're hunting that wide open country for elk, and multiple times you're right there. It's hard you can't hide behind a tree. The elk is not going to walk behind a tree, so you can draw your bow back. You've just got to be able to just move slow. It's like elk see movement, and as long as your movement is very, very slow, it's like they don't pick up on it. But you draw your bow like that, every 40 elk spin their head at you. I mean, it's like they have that sixth sense. So being able to pull your bow back without too much movement, I think, is key. And and that'll serve you everywhere. So practice it, try it. The other one is using a cow call and shooting. Have you ever practiced actually being at full draw and then cow calling like you're going to stop an elk? Like, mew, stop them, and then firing. Like putting the two together. Because I've hunted with some people recently where it's not seamless. Doing that activity together is not something they practiced, and it's like trying to rub circles here. You rub your tummy and your head at the same time. It's like without a little practice, it can be you can get a little off. So I say, practice that, because there were multiple opportunities where we had elk right there. A little cow call and a shot would have made a huge difference.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, really, on that note, if you've never worn a boonie hat and then all of a sudden, like, the bucket hat, and, you decide you want to be a special forces operator and you throw a hat on, generally those things fold into your eyeball when you go to full draw. So
right.
Pretty simple stuff. I mean, that is kind of beginner stuff, but it's amazing how many people don't
practice shoot with their hat on that they're going to wear, or gloves that they're planning to wear the whole time.
Or shoot with calls around your neck. In my case, I don't need to the way I have with form, but guys with too long of draws, I've seen them hit that elk diaphragm because it was sitting funny, or that open reed, the estrus call or whatever. That'll throw off the shot. So just make sure you've got your T's dotted and I's crossed, I guess. Okay, one thing that I think a lot of people suffer from when you shoot an animal, I always mark where I shot from and where the point of impact on the animal was. And there's a art to...
I swear I have failed on that every single time I shoot an animal, and it's like 30 minutes later I'm going, why didn't I mark the shot spot? Why didn't I, I'm just so into the moment. I forget it almost every time. It's something I need to work on.
The crappier your shot you generally are, the better tracker you are. My best friends that are great trackers are horrible shots. They're cripplers. But they're amazing trackers. The one thing I've found, whether it's a long rifle shot or a bow shot, where you shot from, point of impact, and take before you dive off after the animal, unless it just runs over and dies, take a real good mental picture of what happened. Like if you were assessing the situation, like a forward observer, a few military guys, or if you're a scout, you're going to look at something and you're going to be trained. They're going to train your mind to look at something and immediately take a mental picture of the key things that happen. Elk hunting, if you're shooting, and I love it when I don't know where I hit it. Well, how do you not know kind of where you hit it, okay? All right, did you hit a branch? Were there trees in front of you? What was the elk doing? Was it cornered away? Take a good mental picture, which is hard if you're crapping your pants. I understand that. I'm not perfect. I screw up all the time. Knowing in your mind what could have happened. Was the branch more towards the front shoulder that you hit? Or was it more towards the rear? That can say, was it a liver hit? Was it a gut hit? Whatever. Marking where you shot, marking where it hit, marking the direction of travel, doing the same thing on the GPS. Then the other thing you never do is send 5 guys into a blood trail wandering in circles unless the animal just died, because they're tracking over. And this happens all the time on blood trails. You're going to have a point man, and that point man's going to be the guy that's the most capable of blood trailing.
Yeah.
You're going to have a marking guy, usually is what we do. The blood trailer can do it too. The marker guy is usually the blood trailer guy is going to be like, okay, I got blood here. It'll be up to the marker guy because it's a pain getting the ribbon, not putting too much, putting the right amount. You don't want to distance the ribbon so far where you can't find, you want to make sure and always mark last blood.
Right.
It is good to mark a string of ribbon, and to a certain degree, or have a GPS, because you can figure out really quickly if it's on a death run. And if it's on a death run, meaning the same azimuth or same direction, and you lose blood, you can stay on that azimuth or that direction. Sometimes you'll just get lucky and find it when you start to grid out. Most of this is, not common.
It's almost like another podcast, blood tracking.
Yeah, probably. In fact, good point. But make sure you use some common sense when you shoot an animal. Don't just haphazardly walk at it because you think it died.
Yeah,
I'll get
yeah.
So the some of the things with camera photography, because we've gotten a lot of questions with that. Really, the big things I've noticed, other than you need to learn your camera and learn photography. Make sure you pull your batteries every night. Make sure they're shut off. Your camera's at least shut off when it goes into your pack, or you've pulled your batteries if you're putting it in your pack. Some of the bigger, most guys aren't running like the big cameras, like a 5D Mark III or whatever, which take 1,000 shots. A lot of the guys that are running some of the smaller cameras, in my case, mine only takes like 350 shots.
Yep.
Make sure you take those out. You also want to make sure, within reason, you want to make sure that I always try to have a tripod with me of some type, and I always try to have a remote. The remote weighs next to nothing. The tripod, even if I'm not bringing a spotting scope, will make a huge difference if you are going to, in low light, if you're trying to do you and a buddy.
Yep.
And they make those little Gorilla tripods. They're really lightweight. They hold most cameras.
Yep.
But, depending on weight and everything else, those things are really big. And then check your settings on your camera every morning that they're ready for that day. If you shoot if you don't use everything on auto, I personally, for photography, I make sure if I'm on, like my white balance is on Shady House, that my ISO, when I leave, it's earlier, it's commensurate with the surroundings. So I'm pretty high ISO, whatever the case may be, because if you have that one shot of a lifetime and your settings were just on a 30-second shutter speed to shoot night shots, you're probably going to miss that shot. So make sure you're always
ready.
Yeah.
I do the same thing with film. Make sure I take the batteries out each night. I put them in my sleeping bag with me because they lose power, like because of the cold. I've heard that you can, when it gets below 30 degrees, if you leave them alone, they'll warm up. The power will be back again. But my experience has been they've just gone flat dead.
Yeah.
And
I put them in my sleeping bag.
That's what I do. I pull them out. I put them in my sleeping bag because you're backpacked in there. You brought all this weight that you need batteries. So I just pull them out, disciplined, and I just sleep with them in the sleeping bag. I agreed on the whole getting the camera settings tuned in right. You just, I don't know, wake up that morning, I get it all dialed in. I'm always kind of ready for this situation. Like if something happens right now, the settings are pretty much right where they need to be. So I can flip it on and go. The last thing I want to do is have the white balance all jacked up and the shutter speed all off because I left it from some setting the night before. So I do the same thing. One thing that I do with film is I film 90% of everything I do in manual. And when you try to film in automatic, it's tempting, especially with like the Canon 70D that I use. It's got some nice follow focus features and some nice autofocus capabilities with the touch screen. But as an example, we had an elk come out, and there's grass between the elk. You see the big horns come out, and the camera keeps going to the grass, and then the horns, and the grass, and the horns, and the video looks stupid.
Like Blair Witch Project.
Yeah, and it's like if you're filming on manual, boom, you just lock it on those horns, and it's just you're there. There's no need to. It's not messing up what it's filming all the time, and so when you have a intense moment like that, you can't redo it. That elk coming out in that moment and walking in front of those trees, that's it. That's what you've been hunting all week for. So you want to capture that moment. Just suck it up and learn to use manual.
Yep, I would agree. I mean, for photography, I shoot an aperture priority, which we won't touch on this for too long. We're going to do another podcast at some point going over. I know I think you
camera.
get a ton of photography, video questions.
Yeah.
But 100% that yeah, read. I'm probably gonna owe Katie $10. Read the damn manual, right? Like I get so many questions about photography stuff, which I love photography and I don't mind helping,
Yeah.
but it's in the manual. Google is a powerful thing, right? I mean, you can find anything on Google.
Dude,
And-
the internet is amazing.
Yeah.
YouTube, dude, you can get like so many pointers off of just free pointers off of YouTube. But if you download or buy a tutorial from a couple of places, you can become a pro at anything, dude.
Yep, and I think that people with the photography, like general questions, because I asked, if a lens, is it any good, all that stuff, yeah. But like if a guy like, hey, what ISO should I have set on in low light? I mean, I can answer that, but it's a little more black and white than that, And there's other, what should be my shutter speed be on first thing in the morning? Well, you also have 4 other variables of the camera. You have the shutter, the aperture priority, the ISO, you have the white balance, and then you also have the good Lord, exposure value.
Right.
So they all work in continuity with each other. So it's not that easy to basically learn them all.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'll quit touching on that stuff. And we'll talk about that on a different podcast, the photography things.
Okay.
The one thing I probably learned more than anything that was like the biggest mistake that we had is I am always testing my gear, right? Like I know when I go into the field, generally everything's tried and true. Now, my first trip, I tried some clothing that I hadn't really used, and that was a problem. But I think it's worthwhile to even the most minute thing, if it's a very big trip, test everything. Now, I had, which Larry doesn't mind, the tag bags, everything we use. He had a batch of tag bags that came out. There's a recall on them. They didn't double sew, and it's not something you can look at and tell, which I don't. That happens here sometimes. We never had a recall, but I mean, sometimes you just can't catch everything. Well, you would. I mean,
they've come unstitched, basically.
Well, this is what's funnier than that, right? So, I mean, it looked like the meat threw up out of the game bag. We hung it up. So, but those game bags, I've had such good luck with them for such a long time. I never thought in the world to check the game bags. I mean, and I probably never will again. I don't know, but basically, they didn't get. It's a surging machine, and however they folded it, something went wrong, and. Oh yeah, we were hanging the meat up, and literally the side of the game bag just basically took a crap. And I'm like, oh, that's all right. I said, that's my fluke, right? Grabbed another one, and I'm like, no, that's not a fluke.
Yeah. Same thing happened to us.
Oh,
Yeah.
Well, there's a recall on those. He'll
Yeah.
give you new ones. I call Larry. He's like, yeah, man, there's a YouTube video up. There's a recall. I sent out, an email, and I'm like, oh, how many was there? And he's not 100% sure, but check your game
We
bags.
had some that were awesome, and then others that just fell apart. And it was like, oh, there's obviously something. Something went wrong here.
Yeah, the bomb bags. The other ones, I don't think there was any issues, but the bomb bags, there was issues. And when I first, designed those with him and tested them, I was dropping like 3 90-pound weights in them, and so I didn't even think to check. But Colton was laughing because the one chunk of meat flew out and just hit me right in the side of the head. I'm like, yeah, that's not good. So always, I would say I was amazed this year by things that the couple times where I just took it for granted that something would work or
like you would. I mean, you figure tag bags were reliable. You've used them. You haven't had these problems. And then, I mean, how do you can't check everything, Aaron.
No, with me, with the lifestyle I have and the time I have, especially working here, that it is very maybe a prideful thing, and also obviously, we want a customer to be happy. And this isn't a sales pitch by any means, but if you're a guy that's livelihood and business depends on that, and then you have a piece of gear you could have checked and prevented that, was kind of like a kind of a WTF. I'm like, geez, why didn't I check that? But yeah, you're right. It's not something you normally check.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, we're about 45 minutes into this puppy, so we should wrap it up. Any parting thoughts?
Not on this. I would say though that you guys send in as many emails as you can with. We were talking this morning. If you guys have questions, just in general, I think we're going to do a Q&A podcast at some point.
Yeah.
And then if you have ideas for podcasts, send them to Brian. Whether it be me answer them or someone else, because you get a lot of comments. So
we have the form online Katie put up that has the new, where you submit your question, and we just got hammered with those, and it was hunting season, and so admittedly we have not responded to a lot of those messages because we've been out, gone.
Katie didn't
away.
Answer. She
didn't answer. She's not quite feeling qualified to answer the question. So we have this stockpile of emails that I want to get back to guys on and respond. I'm not, they have a lot of it is just really kind, like words of encouragement. Keep it up. Keep cranking on the podcast. We love it. And then of course there's a lot of guys that are just seeking some guidance and some help. Have some questions. So. We're going for that. Just had a lot going on with hunting season. Late August and September have just been crazy. So it's kind of dying down a little bit, but it'll pick up again for me in November. And Mark Brownlee, the Gritty Scotsman, had a heart attack, a massive heart attack, so that was a little scary. This past week, he was in the hospital, and they, he passed out right at home, right as his wife walked through the door, and the ambulance came and got him, and his heart had stopped beating. And anyway, they put a stent in his heart, got the blood flow back, and and so he's working on that. But it's just been a busy time, but I think he's doing pretty well. So yeah, if you have comments or whatever, get back on those, send them to us, and we got some more time back. We'll get back to you on those, and then some of them we won't answer, but we'll answer them in the podcast. Like we have a list of podcast topics we are going to target soon. So. Aaron's been a slacker, I
know. Too much hunting.
Yeah. I want to leave with one thought is when it comes to hunting, one thing that we learn every year, it seems, and we have to keep learning it over and over, is that you can't ignore the wind. You can't outrun the wind. Like you have to, at all costs, at the end of the day, you have to understand wind thermals, where the wind is going to go, what it's going to do, and you can't cheat it. If the wind blows the wrong way, your elk hunt, your deer hunt, it's over. Your goat hunt, it's over.
Yeah.
So learn. If you're going to hunt, that's like, to me, right at the top. And I see guys all year long hunting from the bottom of the canyon with the wind at their back. The hunt's over before it started.
Yeah, animal free zone right here.
Totally. And it's like they just don't get it. So, and I, not to knock rifle hunters, but I feel like because they can poke out so far with their rifle, that sometimes they don't pay attention to the wind as much because they're shooting across a canyon to the other side, and stuff. And they transition into archery, and wind is paramount. And I think I see a lot of those guys have a learning curve that they go through. And so you can't outrun the wind, guys. It's faster than you. It's
almost as important as the wind is do not ever forget Copenhagen. Slightly less important, but not much.
That will increase your odds of success exponentially. Is that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It helps pick up chicks. Dude. Run it on bee stings. Yeah. Okay. That's all I got, man.
All right, dude. All right. Thanks, man. See you. Bye. All right, friends. Thanks for listening and supporting the podcast. Don't forget about our deal with Mountain Ops. Type in the word gritty at checkout and get 20% off until the end of the year. For those of you who have not seen the Full Draw Film Tour this year and want to go, check out their website for their tour schedule. And if you haven't done so, go and subscribe to our YouTube channel or to the Gritty Bowman TV podcast on iTunes or Podbean so you can see all the latest video content we have produced. And be sure to have a look at the new Elk 101 website where you can find our podcast and other great elk hunting content. Thank you for taking the time to leave us your feedback. We really appreciate your sincere support of our show. Finally, let me leave you with this quote by President Theodore Roosevelt, who in 1905 said, "In a civilized and cultivated country, wild animals only continue to exist at all when preserved by sportsmen. The excellent people who protest against all hunting and consider sportsmen as enemies of wildlife are ignorant of the fact that in reality, the genuine sportsman is by all odds the most important factor in keeping the larger and more valuable wild creatures from total extermination." Friends, always take the time to educate those around you about your role as a hunter in preserving the wild creatures of this world. If you don't, who will? As always, good luck on your hunts and stay gritty.
This is Ty Stubblefield, and you're listening to the Gritty Bowman.
Gritty Bowman.